Cool Jobs Podcast.
You're like, where's Saskatoon?
Follow Cool Jobs Podcast on Instagram at Cool Jobs Podcast.
You know 10 NHL players.
The Cool Jobs Podcast is brought to you by Crown Jewel Recruitment.
Please tell me there's video. Is there video of this? If there is, we're going to insert some right here on the podcast.
Oh, we can do it live.
This is the Cool Jobs Podcast with your host, Jonny Jasno.
Okay, here we go. Another edition of the Cool Jobs Podcast. We have to represent today because we have somebody from the Edmonton Oilers. Oh, she's representing too. I'm so excited. Cool Jobs Podcast is brought to you by Mark Curtis at Crown Jewel Recruitment. If you're looking for a job, Mark and his team have opportunities in several industries and segments. Whether it's finance, sales, engineering, supply chain, or executive, Mark is able to provide the process that identifies top talent and will get you hired. Check out all the job listings, crownjewelrecruitment.com, or search him on LinkedIn. Our guest today, game presentation coordinator for the Edmonton Oilers. That sounds so official. I love it so much. Jen Zandstra.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks for asking me to be on. I feel like my job is one of the ones that a lot of people don't know is even a thing. So I'm excited to talk about it.
So true. Quickly, before we go deep into it, off the top, when I go to a hockey game, I'm there to watch the hockey game.
Yeah.
And have a couple beers, cheer on the team, that kind of stuff. During the hockey game, though, you're running all over the stadium. Is that correct?
Oh, I most of the time I barely even watch the games. The game finishes and I'm like, so what was the score? What are we at right now? Yeah, I always joke with people. I always say you came for the hockey game, but you stayed for the show. And the show is the part that me and my crew does. So
right.
Yeah, there's lots of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that a lot of people don't even know about.
Oh, man. Okay, we're going to get to all of it. Let's start early on. You're an Ontario girl, correct?
Yeah. Born and raised in Southern Ontario. I remember being in high school and we had this class called careers. And it was literally just you trying to decide what you wanted to do with the rest of your life. And I was
right.
So obsessed with it. And I was just what am I doing? What am I doing? I don't know what I want to do with my life. And looked up tons of different jobs. We did tons of quizzes and stuff about what we would be fit to do. Couldn't find anything that really spoke to me. And then one night I was sitting with my mom and for some reason we were watching the news, which my parents never did. There must have been something crazy worldwide happening that my parents wanted to update themselves on. And we were just sitting there and my mom just looks at me and she's like, you could do that. And I was like, I could do what? And she was like, you could be on the news. And I was like, really? She's like, yeah, you know how to talk. You could be on the news. You could read the news. And I was like, interesting. And I had never really thought of that career path before. And
right.
And it just went off from there. I was like, yeah, I can do that for sure.
So did you end up going to broadcasting college then?
Yeah, and so then in high school we had a placement type course, and my mom was like, "Well, why don't you reach out to the local radio station, see if you can get a placement with them for a semester, see if you like it."
Right.
And so I did that for a semester at my local small hometown radio station. Absolutely loved it. I did news, I did creative, I did music stuff, I did a little bit of everything. They let me try everything, which was super cool. And I was like, yeah, I want to do this. And so I applied to Niagara College because they have their broadcasting program is film, television, and radio. And at the time I was just I like broadcasting. I don't really know what segment of it I like. And so I liked the idea of trying all three things and kind of figuring out which one I liked the best. And so, yeah, applied for there, got in there. Out of 5,000 people that applied that year, I think 100 of us got in, which was crazy in and of itself.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a rigorous application process. We had to go in one day and write an exam with all the other people that were applying and get all these letters of recommendation and write an essay and yeah, it was crazy. So when I actually got accepted, I was over the moon, so excited because yeah, it's a very small percentage that actually gets into that program.
So how long was your program? And then because you moved out west, right?
Yeah, so my program was 3 years. So in the first year we did all three.
Okay.
We did radio, television, and film. And then in our second and third year, we kind of specialized. So it was either the production side or the presentation side. So presentation was on TV, or in front of the camera, TV and radio. And then production was film and behind the camera, TV. And in first year, I honestly like flipped back and forth on like which side I wanted to specialize in. Like I liked all of it. And like all of my friends were like, oh, I know exactly what I want to do. And I remember feeling like so like down on myself and like talking to my professor and being like, I don't know which one I want to pick. Like I like so many things. And she was like, that's not a bad thing. Like you will have so much more success in the industry if you like so many more different things than if you like kitty corner yourself in one sector of the market, especially in broadcasting. As you know, there's only so many broadcasting jobs out in the world. Yeah. And so I ended up going, I think when school finished, I had signed up to do the production side of it. And I was like, oh, I want to be a director, like a TV director, or like something cool like that. And then that summer, I ended up being the summer cruiser for the local radio station I had done a placement at. And I was like on the radio all summer at different events, like doing just like cut-ins, like telling people where I was, what events were going on. And halfway through the summer, I called my professor and I'm like, I'm switching. I'm going presentation. Like, I love doing this. This is so awesome. And so she was like, are you sure? And I was like, yes. And so I switched over to presentation, which in the long run ended up being amazing, and loved it. And then in our third year, we had a placement, like an internship kind of idea at wherever we wanted to be in our like TV and radio, film, wherever we wanted to. And so I ended up doing an internship at the Bell Media radio stations in Niagara, in the promotions department. And the manager I had there, her name was Caroline, and she was the best person ever. She literally taught me her job inside and out. Like, she was like, I think you're going to be really good at this. You seem like you really like it. I want to teach you everything I know. And so literally taught me everything I know. She let me like plan a whole like Oscars party, like, with contest winners and stuff. And like, yeah, it was so much fun. I learned a lot from her and got to do a lot of cool things. And then, oh man, from there, I did their summer cruiser job with those three radio stations in Niagara for Bell Media that summer. And kind of was just like applying for jobs.
Niagara,
like,
when you say Niagara though, Niagara Falls. Yeah.
Well, those three radio stations were in St. Catharines, but like, yeah, the Niagara area, like we did events in Niagara Falls and stuff and just kind of went everywhere in the Niagara region.
Is that like, I've only been there once and it was incredible. Was it incredible living there and working there and being part of that community? Like, I was so overwhelmed. I was so overwhelmed when I was there for the 20 minutes. I was like, what's going on in the falls? And there's so much to see. And I can only imagine.
It's so funny. Because I lived there for 3 years. And I say that to people all the time. I was like, out of the 3 years that I lived there, I bet you I went to like the actual falls like 3 times. Like, we would go, like, me and my friends would go at Christmas time to like see all the lights, and like that was it. Otherwise, we didn't really like spend a lot of time in Niagara Falls. But I loved the Niagara region. Like, there's so many wineries and just so many festivals all the time. And like, I always say if I moved back to Ontario, like I would want to move back to the Niagara region. It's just such a nice place to live. And there's just always cool things going on. And it's super pretty. So
from there,
happy weather sometimes,
out west, you went to BC, right?
Yeah. So
like, that's a huge move. That's a huge move.
Man, I still to this day, I still like look back on it and I'm like, how did I do that? And like, my mom says it all the time. She's like, you were such like a planner, like worrywart, like in my head. And when I moved out to BC, I remember driving into Nelson where I was going to be moving, and my mom was like, are you freaking out yet? Like, are you okay? I'm like, I'm fine. Like, this will be cool. And my mom's like, how are you not freaking out? Like, this is not the Jen that, like, I don't know. I just like, I had this like calm over me, and my gut was just like, no, this is the move you need to make. Like, this is what's this is your next move and you're going to be fine. Like, you're going to figure it out. And like, I had never been to BC before. I had never been out of Ontario at that point.
Right.
And me and my mom
How
took
old are
4
you?
days. I was 20, 21, 22 at the time. Yeah.
Crazy.
Didn't have any family there, like nothing. Like, all my family's in Ontario. Packed up all my stuff into my Chevy Cobalt, and me and my mom drove it across the country for 4 days and have some wild road trip stories.
For sure.
And then I will tell you one story though, because it's pretty funny.
Okay.
We didn't really like book any of our hotels along the way. And so when we got into Winnipeg, I think it was like, or it wasn't Winnipeg. It was one of the towns that's like on the border of Saskatchewan and Winnipeg on the main highway. We got into that city and we were like, oh, we're going to stay here for the night. There ended up being this like huge agricultural like convention that weekend, and all of the hotels were booked, and they're like, yeah, there's nothing, like there's nowhere in town for you to stay. And we were like, okay, well, I guess we're going to keep driving then. So we kept driving like over the border into Saskatchewan, and it was like 1 a.m. at that point, and I was like, I can't drive anymore. Like, I need to pull over. So we pulled over at like the information center. We tried to sleep in my car, but because like my car is like packed full of stuff, like we can't put our seats back to even like lay down. I think we sat there for like an hour, and then I was like, nope, can't do it. So we ended up like driving to the next town in Saskatchewan and like staying at the first hotel that we could find that had a room. And it was like a smoking room, like this run down, beat up motel in like, who knows where Saskatchewan. But yeah.
$29.95 for the night.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Oh man, yeah, wild times.
How long were you in Nelson for then? You were at the radio station there, right?
Yeah, so then I ended up getting a job at the Bell Media stations in Nelson, BC. So I moved out there for promo coordinator job. Was doing like I was like promo coordinator and like weekend announcer. So I was doing like a little bit of everything again still, because still didn't really know what I liked doing the most. And so that job seemed like the next logical step to try and see whether I wanted to go more on air or wanted to go more promotions. And so I was there for a year and a half, which at the time felt like forever. Looking back on it now, it's just like a little blip in my life. But at the time it felt like so long. I mean, I know I've talked to a lot of people about it since that absolutely love Nelson, and they're like, how could you ever leave? But for me, like at that time in my life, I was young. I was like 22 years old. All the people that were my age in that town were either in school or they were living on EI and snowboarding. And I was like trying to have a career, and like they're like, so what do you like, are you on EI? I'm like, no, I like have a job, like a full-time job. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, a job, like, do you know what that means? Like, and so so I didn't end up staying there that long just for that. It just like, I would move back there now, like, and I feel like I would love to like retire there. But at that point in my life, it just didn't fit where I was at that time.
During this whole time, school, radio stations in Ontario, the Nelson, are you super interested into sports? Have you been into sports your whole life? Like, because it seems like I've been into into sports, like hockey. My family, like being from Ontario, my parents are huge Maple Leafs fans, but Were you a Maple Leafs fan growing up?
I was never a Leafs fan growing up. No, I started really watching hockey in the era of like Sidney Crosby and Jonathan Toews. So I was always on the Penguins Blackhawks train, just being a young girl watching hockey. Was never on the Maple Leafs train because, well, they weren't very good when I was younger anyways. So didn't want to cheer for the team that was losing, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, my family was always huge into hockey. And so it was just kind of like always something in the back of my mind that I was like, yeah, like doing sports one day would be super cool. But I never really like saw a way into it, I guess. Like when I was in college, there were guys in my program that were like wanted to become play-by-play announcers, and they knew like every stat you could think of about like every athlete in the world, and I like didn't know that stuff. So I didn't think there was really like a chance for me to get into it. It was always like a dream of mine to like go to the Olympics someday and like do something with the Olympics.
Right.
Which
Cool.
is still a dream of mine to this day. One day we'll figure that out. But yeah, it was just like, it was in the back of my mind and like a big dream, but it didn't seem feasible at the time when I moved to BC.
How long were you in Nelson then?
A year and a half. So yeah,
Okay.
I wasn't.
Oh, so
yeah,
not super long.
not super long, but long enough for me to get it tattooed on my arm there. So
Nice. I like it.
yeah.
I like it. So then you made the jump to Edmonton.
Yeah, so then a job with Bell Media in Edmonton came up, as you know, Jonny, because that's where we met.
Yeah. That's where we met. Absolutely.
And I, when the job posting came up, I messaged Chris Kelly, who's now in Toronto, and I went to college with him. Messaged him, and I was like, should I do this? And he was like, yeah, get the heck out of BC, like come to Edmonton. And I was like, okay, cool. Again, had never been to Edmonton before.
Right.
Didn't know anything about the city. Applied for the job, got it, and moved. My mom again helped me pack up my car and drive it to Edmonton.
Yeah.
And then I mean, the rest is history. I'm still here, still in Alberta.
So how long have you been in Edmonton now?
So I've been in Edmonton it'll be 6 years
Crazy.
in April, which seems wild to me. Yeah. And that's why I say like Nelson was such a blip like on my radar. Like at the time it felt so long, but now I've been in Edmonton for 6 years, which seems wild.
So walk me through that transition now. Promo in radio. It's busy. It's crazy. There's 1,000 things going on, especially 3 radio stations that you were with. There's always an event. There's always something happening. So like that world is just nutso to anybody who just thinks a promotion just happens in about 5 minutes, but it doesn't. When does that gear switch that you need to now go to the Edmonton or want to apply for the Edmonton Oilers? And was that just a pipe dream? You're like, I'll throw my resume in, we'll see what happens. Or you're like, I need this job.
I mean, a little bit of both, I think. Like, when I worked for the radio stations in Edmonton, I worked for TSN 1260, and I did a lot of their stuff because I liked sports, and so I did a lot of their promotions and stuff. And so at the time, they had a deal with the Edmonton Oil Kings, who's the WHL team underneath the Oilers in Edmonton, and I was dealing with their like people from the Oilers organizations for Oil King stuff like all the time. Became super close with them and was always like talking to them. They knew who I was. They knew how I worked. And just really formed like a really good bond with the people over there. And so when I decided I had kind of like gotten everything that I could out of my current position in radio, I was like, I think I want to do sports. And one of my friends at the time was working for a sports team, and she was like, you need to do it. Like, you got to figure out how to get into sports because you would absolutely love it. Like, it's like the perfect move for you. You love sports. You love hockey. Like, you're in Edmonton where there's a major sports league. Like, you gotta try it. And so I knew I had those connections with people at the Oilers already. And so I reached out to, one of the guys that was in charge of the Oil Kings at the time and said, hey, like, can we have lunch? Like, I want to pick your brain about something. And he was like, yes, for sure. Absolutely. And had lunch with him and basically was like, I want to work for the Oilers Entertainment Group. And he was like, absolutely. Like, let's figure this out. Like, I know how good of a worker you are. Like, I seen you do stuff before and you're always on top of everything, like blah, 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 pumping my tires, which was fun.
Hey, everybody needs that once in a while. I don't care who you are. You need your tires pumped. Everybody.
Totally. And then he was just like, yeah, like, let's figure it out. And so for the next like 10 months, I think I was just like watching their like job channel to see what was coming up. and just waiting, honestly, for an opportunity to come up that I thought I would be qualified for. Something came up with the Oil Kings, and it was like a communications manager job, I think. And I was like, oh, this seems pretty cool. Like, I feel like I could do that. At the time, I thought because I had no experience in sports whatsoever, I didn't have any background like in sports management or like any kind of schooling for it. I had a broadcasting diploma.
Right.
I thought I would have to start with Oil Kings and kind of like work my way up, which I was willing to do. Like, that seemed like the logical thing to do with any career move you make. You got to work your way up. And so I applied for the Oil Kings job. I think I had like one like initial like HR interview for it. And then the girl that did that HR interview with me called me like a week later and was, hey, we have this Oilers job posting right now that I think you would be a perfect match for. Do you mind if I apply you to it? And I had seen that job posting, didn't think anything of it. I was like, there's no chance I'm getting this. Like, I do not qualify for this at all. And I said to her, I was like, if you think that I have like the qualifications, like, go for it. Like, for sure, like, that sounds unreal. And yeah, and then she applied me for it. I had like 3 interviews and they were like, yep, the job's yours if you want it. And I was like,
how amazing is that person to realize you're like, yeah, she could probably do the Oil Kings job, but you know what? We have this other one. That's incredible. That's incredible.
Oh, when I finally started at the Oilers, I like went up to her and I was like, thank you so much. Like, she was doing her job really well.
Absolutely.
I just like thanked her so much. Obviously my connections, like the guy that I was connecting with at the Oil Kings helped a lot too. Like, he ended up being like really good friends with the guy, the like boss manager of my department, and so it was like, crazy. You gotta hire her. Like, you're kind of dumb if you don't. So,
oh my gosh,
It's wild. Every time I tell people that story, I'm like, I don't know. I just like, it's wild.
It was meant to be. It honestly was. It was meant to be.
And honestly, like, I think it was just like really good timing. Like, my bosses were looking for someone that knew how to manage a team, because the person that was in my job before me wasn't super keen on managing a team, and I managed the Oilers ice crew. Right. And in radio, I managed our street team for all 3 radio stations, and like hired all of them and trained them and everything. And so like that was like their main focus on what they were looking for, is someone that could manage a team. And I had experience doing that. They didn't care if I didn't have any experience in sports. They're like, whatever, we can teach you that. Like, we need like management skills, which sometimes is hard to teach people. So
the Cool Jobs podcast is brought to you by Crown Jewel Recruitment.
Hi there, Mark Curtis, Managing Partner at Crown Jewel Recruitment. We are very excited to partner with the Cool Jobs podcast. A little bit about us: we specialize in mid to senior level management positions, all types of industries. We also have entry level all the way through to executive suite. If you'd like to learn more, please check out crownjewelrecruitment.com.
Like Cool Jobs Podcast on Facebook at Cool Jobs Podcast.
Okay, I have so many questions about your current job. Like, I don't even know where to start, honestly, because so much you do happens weeks in advance to actual game night and everything. So let's just start like Friday night, there's a hockey game. When do you start preparing for that hockey game? Because like you have so much to do. There's so much that happens in the stands, which you're in charge of. So give me the rundown. Let's say 7:00 Friday night, there's a game. Where does your life start with that?
Yeah, I would say like for a typical game that we have, usually like the week of, I'll start looking at like our calendar and see what my boss has all planned for that game, what contests we're doing, any special promotions. On our like specialty nights, like we'll like our theme nights, if we have like St. Patrick's Day game or like a special Christmas game, or we did Hunter's birthday party a few years ago, which was unreal. Those kind of games we're planning like a month in advance maybe of doing them, just because there's a lot more like
for people that don't know, Hunter's the mascot of the Oilers.
Yes, and his birthday is on February 29th, so we only get it on leap years. And in 2019 we like just so happened, I don't know how it lined up, but the NHL gods graced us with a game on February 29th. And so obviously we had Hunter's birthday party
Cool.
and invited all the other mascots from Edmonton out to the game. And yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so run me through a game day then. What time do you start? Like, what are your hours? Yeah, like, man, I have so many questions. Like, what does it look like on a game day for you? And then, like, how many people are working behind the scenes to make the game day live happen? Or I guess, like, because you guys are focused on everything off the ice, right? But you have so many of the anthem singer and the DJ and you and the host of the night, Chelsea, and the in-game announcer, and like, it's scripted. I know that for a fact. But how does everybody know when to talk? And I saw you with the headset on. Like, I have so many questions. Run me through what it looks like in a day.
Yeah, so my game days usually, like, if it's a 7 p.m. game, I'll usually get there like around noon, which seems crazy. But there's that much stuff that goes on before the game even starts to like make sure everything's ready.
Do you have a parking pass at Rogers Place? Do you have parking?
I do, yes.
So jealous.
Which is very convenient. Yes, I do. I'm very lucky.
Continue on.
Yeah, and on like a game day, it's a lot of just prepping everything. Like, if we need props for certain contests, if like make sure my team has all their uniforms, like my ice crew has all their uniforms ready to go.
Sorry, I'm going to derail you here already. What does the ice crew, what are they in charge of? Just the scraping of the ice when stoppage happens?
No, so my orange and blue ice crew is like cut into two different part sections, really. They do the on ice cleaning and stuff during like the TV timeouts and the intermissions, but then I also have like an off ice team that helps with contesting and finding contestants and t-shirt tosses and handing out prizes and all that fun stuff.
How many ice crew are there?
In total, I have 33 of them. On a game night, we have 21 of them working. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay, so it's busy.
I manage them, and then I manage our Hunter, which, like, as you can imagine, Hunter the Lynx is just a lot to handle, just a lot to manage, you know. Hunter's the best. He's the least of my worries most of the time.
Okay, cool.
And then I manage our host, who is Chelsea Bird this year, who you and I both worked with.
Yeah, Chelsea's awesome.
Yeah, love her.
And that's a whole nother job in itself, is hosting all the contests and game and all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So are you like with her then in terms of all the time, like when she's on the mic and like, okay, now we have to go to section 226 and then, now we have to go over here and do this. And like,
yeah, exactly. I kind of like run around like on game, like during the game, my job is floor director. So I run around with her all game and just make sure that her mic is working, like the camera guy shows up, we got a light if we need it for her shot, if we have a contestant, they're ready and they're briefed and they're ready to go and understand the contest, that my ice crew show up with the prizes if we need it, or signs, or whatever it is. And
is there a rehearsal for all this of any kind? Because like there's lots going on.
Every game is a rehearsal. Like I mean, the first like few games of the season, like we usually have 4 like home game, like preseason home games. That's like a lot of our rehearsal, just like getting back into the groove every season. And if anyone's new, just making sure everyone kind of like feels it out and like understands the flow of our game. But much of our games are like the same flow all the time. We just might swap in and out all the contests that we do. Like we don't do the same contests every game, right? So it's just swapping them in and out, and then it's no rehearsals. You just go with it.
Unreal. How much of the actual game do you get to see then, or you're just running around?
Oh man, I maybe see like 40% of the game. Like if I'm standing there waiting for a timeout, like that's it. And like I said, I get to the end of the game and I'm like, what was the score again? Like, I know we won, but like, what was the score? Like,
so what happened?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Do you know all the secret cool passageways then? How to get fast to different sections all over the rink?
I would like to say that I did. I would like to say after 3 years of working there, I would know all the like secret tunnels and like stairwells, but I don't. Like even just this year, I discovered one. No, even just this year, I discovered one, and I was like, why have I not been taking this stairwell? Like this is gonna make my life so much easier. Like what have I been doing? So
Do you wear a smartwatch and count your steps during a game?
Mm-hmm. Every game.
How many steps do you think?
In a day, I do between like 10 and 12,000 steps in a game day. Yeah.
Just no problem.
It's a workout in itself. I don't need to work out. Game days are my workout. Like, yeah.
That's awesome. So is there a difference in your world from a weekday game versus a weekend game? Or do you guys put more emphasis and more prizing and more push because you think more people are going to come to the weekend and have more party, I guess, in the arena versus a weekday game? Is that a thing?
It has been in past years. I think with COVID, we're just this year coming back. We've just kind of been like feeling it out and kind of using our standard game just because things have been changing so much.
Right.
In the past, we have done like specialty weekend promos and games and stuff. But yeah, I mean, we definitely have like a different playlist that we use on the weekend to like pump up the crowd more, and like people are more willing to get into it because it is their weekend and they want to have a good time. But I mean, honestly, like sometimes those Tuesday night games can be wilder than like a Saturday night. Like sometimes it blows my mind. Like sometimes people show up on a Tuesday and I'm like, oh, you guys are ready to go. Like, okay, like here, let's throw some stuff at you.
Do you find the atmosphere different depending on the team that's in town?
Oh, 100%. I mean, a game against like the Florida Panthers is way different than a game against like the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Toronto Maple Leafs game is wild, and I can't with those games. But I mean, but then yeah, like you could get a random Tuesday against Florida and people are just like ready to go and like excited to be there. So yeah, it's so all over the place. Like you think you're just going to have like a chill, like Wednesday night. You're like, okay, people might not be into it. They just want to watch like into our stuff. They just want to watch the game. And then they're like, you throw like a get loud prompt at them and they're like, yeah. And we're like, okay, cool. This is the crowd tonight. Sweet.
How is it a t-shirt just gets people just fired right up?
Man,
you throw one t-shirt into the crowd, the whole place wants a t-shirt. Like, where does that come from?
I couldn't tell you. I get other people that do my job in the league asking me that question all the time. They're like, how? And I'm like, I can't even explain it to you. Like, it's just the t-shirt toss. It's just a great time. People love it.
I know. Everybody goes wild for the t-shirt toss all the time. Is your job hard? Do you find your job harder when they're losing? Like, I don't say like a losing streak, but just losing during the game, and people aren't into it, and it's like, oh, what do we do? We're trying our best to get the crowd going and into it, and is it? Yeah,
for sure.
Do you guys have any secret tricks to get people going, or do you just kind of run with the schedule and happens?
I mean, a lot of our job is very reliant on how the fans are, and if they're not feeling it, then it's hard to convince them to feel it. But I mean, we do our best. Exactly. That's why we put our t-shirt toss in third period. So
there you go.
Get pumped up for the t-shirt toss.
I used to do junior B hockey announcing, really big time stuff, and if the team was losing, we wouldn't announce the 50-50 winner for like 3 minutes left in the third.
Really?
We just hold them there. We would just hold them there as long as humanly possible because we're like,
that's crazy.
We're getting blown up 7-2. Let's keep the crowd here.
Nah, I can't say we do that. We don't do that. But I mean, all of our 50-50 is online now. So it's an 11 p.m. draw now. But it's usually that t-shirt toss that we're like, all right, guys, third period. We're down.
I see you with the headset on, a few pictures. So how much, like, you're in constant communication with everything that's going on. Is there like somebody directing the whole show that is always talking? Okay, DJ, go now. Okay, Jen, you're with Chelsea, go now. Like, that must be a huge just undertaking there, making sure that everything runs smoothly, right? Because you only have 30 seconds sometimes, right?
Yeah, that's my boss. He's amazing at his job. And I honestly don't think I could do his job. My headset's connected to him.
Okay.
And then he's connected to everybody, all of our tech crew, our audio guy, our lighting guy, our DJ, our band, me, other floor directors that we have, just everybody, and just queuing everybody, telling us what we have coming up, and making sure everybody's ready to go for our next timeout or intermission game or anything like that. So yeah, he's got a big undertaking sitting up
oh my God,
in the perch, just making sure everybody's ready to go all the time, and he does a really good job at it.
Because and hockey is so funny because you might not have a whistle for a long time. And
the most stressful games.
So I'm guessing you have an itinerary and a script. Does stuff get bumped constantly then when there's no whistles and this and okay, we're going to scratch that. We can't do that. Okay. No. Oh, there's too many whistles now. What do we do? How do we fill? Like,
well, we have,
crazy.
So in every period we have 3 TV timeouts. And depending on when they are, sometimes we lose a timeout, so we'll only have 2 timeouts, depending on how much they're blowing the whistle, or whether, because we don't get TV timeouts if it's like going into a penalty, or if it's during a penalty, or if they score a goal, or it's icing, or like all these different rules the NHL has. And so sometimes we lose them. Not very often we lose timeouts, but sometimes we do, and in that case we just try and make it up at a different either later in the game, depending on what happens, or during a different game. We'll do it if we have like a client obligation or something that we were applying for that timeout. So yeah.
So the game ends. You've been running around the stadium the whole night with Chelsea, making sure your ice crew's doing their thing. Hunter's doing his thing. I don't even know what he does half the time either.
I don't either. Honestly, Chelsea and mine's favorite thing is to we'll just be waiting for our timeout, and we're like, okay, where's Hunter? Like, what's he doing right now? Because it's just, he's comical. He's he's my favorite thing to watch during awesome. The game. Like, I think if I was someone just going to the game and watching, I would just be watching Hunter the whole time. I don't think I'd be watching the game. I genuinely, for myself, I don't know how people actually pay attention to the game, because there's so much going on, and there's so many other things that you can between Hunter and our Oilers drum and brass crew, they sit up on the perch and they're constantly doing crazy bits and stuff, and my ice crew's running around, and Chelsea's talking every once in a while. I'm like, how do you guys pay attention to the actual game? There's so many things to watch.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. With games over, do you guys meet after and have a debriefing of how that went, or you guys kind of just let it sit and then just argue your movement? Because there's so many games.
Yeah, usually at the beginning of the season, because everything's new. Maybe we have some new contests. Maybe we have new people on our camera crew or whatever. We'll do debrief meetings just to be okay, this is what happened. Let's try this next time. But at this point in the season, we're halfway through the season. We've kind of done everything, all the new contests and stuff, and new features that we have. And we're all been doing, we're 25 games in now. So we, kind of season pros at this point in the season, that we all just go home after 12,000 steps. I take my boots off and I leave.
So example, Oilers are on the road currently. When they're on the road, what is your, do you guys go into the office every day and plan for the next game? Or are you guys this is chill time, let's sit back, relax, they're on the road, let's just watch them from home? Or do you guys have things going on that you want to do for next game or future games?
Yeah, there's always stuff going on. I mean, even when the team is on the road, we have watch parties at restaurants that we do on away games. Yeah, and then there's always other events.
That's your under your umbrella.
That is me. Yeah. That is me. This year, I have trained somebody to go to those events for me, which has been really nice. But I still make all the scripts and schedule everything and gather all the prizing and stuff for that. So that's under me as well. So just making sure those are running smoothly and I'm setting them up for success. And then, I mean, we definitely get time to chill. It's not as,
I was going to say, when's your day off? When do you get a day off?
Yeah, I definitely like, I can't speak for all of my coworkers, but I keep track of all of my hours. And if I make sure that I take the time when I need
Right.
it. And I mean, I can, when we have 3 games in a week, I know that I need it. Like after that,
Right.
you're like exhausted. Like, and like, it's not even just like the physical stuff. Sometimes like 12,000 steps, whatever. A lot of people do that in a day. It's like just being mentally exhausted. I
for
find more
sure.
because
Yeah.
not only am I like running around, but I'm constantly just like, okay, if this happens, I'm going to do this. If this happens, I'm going to do this. If this happens, I can do this to fix it. Or like just constantly, my brain is constantly on fire, like firing off different things and just making sure everything is going to go smoothly. And at the end of the night, I even find like most of the time, if the game's done at like 11, I probably don't fall asleep till like 2 a.m. because I'm just trying to get my brain, like my body's exhausted. I'm like laying in bed, like starfishing, just dead. But my brain is still just like firing, and it takes a lot to like turn that off.
And especially if you're there at noon and you don't get done till 11:30, whatever. Like it's a long shift. Really, it is. I know it sounds fun. You're going to the rink and having a good time, entertaining people, but there's lots that goes into it. For sure, it's exhausting. Absolutely.
Totally. I mean, yeah, it's fun. Like we're at a hockey game, but it's still a job. We're still trying to get stuff done and like put on an actual like show, right? So yeah, it's a lot, but it's a fun a lot.
Oh, absolutely. So off season then, what happens? Like so we're done, playoffs, everything. Do you just get summer off now, or are you back in the office for doing that kind of stuff too?
Usually we take
season?
usually like our whole office will take like a month off. Well, not off. I mean, we're still like checking emails and doing the odd thing, but like we take the time to like decompress and like give ourselves that time off just because it's so go during the season. And then usually once like middle of July comes, we're right back into it again, planning for next season, figuring out what home opener looks like, figuring out what our schedule
do you have
looks
to be
like.
involved? Do you have to be involved in like golf tournaments around town and all that stuff, and make sure people are there representing and everything in the summer?
Yeah, that's usually like part of the foundation. That's doesn't fall under my my job description as much as I would love to. I always tell them, I'm like, I'll come hang out at the golf course. Like that sounds fun.
Exactly.
Sounds like a fun afternoon to me. Yeah, that falls under like more of the foundation and like the hockey engagement department. So I don't, not too involved in that, but yeah, I mean, my employees go to those every once in a while and stuff like that. But yeah, like usually middle of July, we're like planning for the next season. I rehire my entire team in August. So in August we have auditions for our ice crew. And I rehire a whole new 33 people or bring some of them back or whatever it is. They all have to re-audition every year. So yeah, it's like a month off. And then, I don't know how to say this without sounding bad.
That's okay. Don't say however you want.
It's always crazy to me to look at the teams that go like deep into the playoffs. Cause I mean, as cool as it is for the fans, I like think of it from like, an employee standpoint. And I'm
totally different mindset.
Totally different mindset. I'm like, man, you guys, like if you're going till the end of like June, beginning of July, like, and then you're planning for your next season, like middle of July, like you get like 2 weeks off, like, and then you're like back into the swing of it.
How often do you talk with other teams and other people in your role from wherever, Dallas and Anaheim? Do you chat lots
actually? Yeah. Over COVID, actually, a bunch of us like got together that have the same like job title as me, from different teams. And, just with COVID, we were like, wow, this is as good a time as any to like get together and kind of like swap stories and like ideas and stuff and like talk about like our processes on, how we hire a team and like different contests and stuff that we do. And like, yeah, I mean, as much as like, it's funny because as much as like the hockey players are against each other and it's like this giant rivalry, like there's only 30 other people in the league that do my job. So
right. Yeah.
It's nice to like talk to other people that know what I do and like understand my job to the fullest, and be able to like bounce ideas off of them of like, oh, like we've tried this and it worked really well, or like, oh, don't do that. Like we did that. It didn't turn out great. So, yeah, it's awesome having those like connections to the other teams in the league just to bounce things off of
that's
and
awesome.
or complain.
Do you ever go on the road?
No, I don't. I am strictly a home team position. I would love to go on the road one day with them, but yeah, no, I am just home team. And then, like I said, when they're away, we do like watch parties and stuff. So
right, yeah.
Always something to do at home.
I have to ask this question just because everybody's going to die if I don't ask this question. How many Oilers do you actually know, and do you ever hang out, and do you ever party with them or anything like that? Any of the above? And you don't have to say names if you don't want to, but
yeah. I know them all. I don't hang out with them.
Okay.
But I do part of my job is...
Are you on a first name basis? Will they say, "Hey, Jen"?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Cool.
They know who I am. They're like, girl in the headset, don't mess with her. She's doing her job. I mean, I don't know. There's just this mutual understanding. They're doing their job. I'm trying to do my job.
Totally.
So, totally. And like, yeah, I love all the guys in our team. They're awesome. They're all super easy guys to work with. And I have nothing but good things to say about all of them. They're all very, very nice human beings. And it's like, I always tell people, I'm like, it's weird for me to think that they make what they do because I don't see them that way. I just like, they're just like colleagues to me. Like
totally. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm doing my job. They're doing their job. So
yeah. I partied one time when I first moved to Edmonton. My buddy was friends with one of the Oilers, McIntyre. I don't know if you remember him or not.
No, I wasn't on the team when.
It was back in like 09, 10, somewhere in there. And they grew up together. They're high school friends. And so he came to town, my buddy did, and said, "Hey, you want to go to the game? We'll go see McIntyre." Long story short, McIntyre invited us all to this is back at Rexall, to the bar underneath the like a player's bar. We're sitting there having drinks.
Yeah.
Everly's there, Taylor Hall is there, and I was like, "What is going on? Like, how I should not be here right now."
I'm not allowed in this room.
I am not allowed in this room, and this is way above my pay grade. And we partied, and then we went out to a bar with all of them. I've never seen so much alcohol and so many Visas and MasterCards on a table in my life.
Oh my gosh.
And we ended up at 5 a.m. McIntyre dropped us off at my house, and it was a crazy party night, but that was my one and only time partying with the Oilers. And it was so much fun. But yeah, I don't know if that exists anymore, those crazy parties. I'm sure they do, but you don't have to tell me if you've been involved with them.
I have not. The players are pretty separate from, I mean, we're colleagues, we're not all
for sure.
Best. I mean, I know it's different in like other cities for sure. But it's not like that at the Oilers. But yeah, I love hearing like old Oilers stories. They're so funny to me.
It was crazy. I had way too much to drink that night.
Yeah.
Question about your best perk. Like, do you get any cool perks of your job? Obviously, you get parking there, but like, what else is awesome about working there?
Oh man. I mean,
you get season tickets that you get to hand out?
No. We do get tickets every once in a while. They'll like throw out tickets to us, which is usually pretty cool, or concert tickets, which is always fun.
That's a whole nother thing that happens there. Do you have anything to do with any of that, or are you just strictly Oilers?
I don't. I wish I did. And people always ask me that too, even like Oil Kings wise. They're like, "Do you do anything?" I'm like, I am strictly Oilers. I'm one of like the few positions in our company that is like strictly just one entity of our company. A lot of the other departments
Garth Brooks comes to town for how many 9-11 shows, whatever it is. You have nothing to do with that. You don't help them.
Nothing. Not my department. My department. Unfortunately, I wish, but
because
they just kicked me out of the arena on those days. They're like, "No, Jen, It's not an Oilers game day. And I'm like, but I just want to see.
I just want to check what's going on. Why can't I do
And they're
that?
like, you see this sign that says you're not allowed in? I'm like, no.
Oh man, I want to ask you one question about. I want to get a tour of Rogers Place, a behind the scenes one time, because I think that would be
For
incredible.
sure.
I would
Yeah,
love
for
to
sure.
see that. It just seems like
it's wild. It's so funny when I like hire on new members of my ice crew and they do
I
like the
bet.
first 2 games and they're like, they see all the stuff that goes into like the behind the scenes part of it. And they're like, I had no idea. Like I came to the games and I had no idea. Like they're like, this is like such a well-oiled machine and like every detail is covered. They're like, I had no idea. And I'm like, it's why. I mean, even when I started, I was like, this is wild. Like a lot of people don't know. Like they really don't know.
So your mom drove you to Nelson. Your mom came from Nelson, drove you to Edmonton. Has she been to Rogers Place and saw you in action during the game?
She has, yeah. She was actually, my parents were actually just here
Cool.
the end of January and they came for a game. And yeah, my parents are pretty funny as much as they are born Leafs fans. They have definitely embraced the Oilers fandom. And
awesome.
I introduced them to Chelsea and Hunter and they were pretty excited about it.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
Man, well, I want everybody to look for you next time they're at Rogers Place. She'll be with Chelsea more than likely. Make sure you say hi.
Yeah. If you see Chelsea Bird, I'm right there.
Jen, you have one cool job. Thank you so much for doing this, and
No problem.
Can't wait to see the Oilers go deep in the playoffs. I know you don't want to see that necessarily because of work, but we want to.
No,
cheer on the team
I
anyway.
want to see it. Yeah, I mean, I fear for my social life in that point, but I want to see them go just as far as everybody else. I'm a fan just like everybody else is, you know? It's infectious living at Edmonton. I didn't work for the Oilers when I first moved here, but I fell in love with them the second I did. So
That's
it was
awesome.
it was a good transition starting to work for them because I knew everything about them after living here for 3 years. So yeah.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much, and you have one cool job. Cool Jobs Podcast is brought to you by Mark Curtis at Crown Jewel Recruitment. With over 200 people hired, Mark Curtis at Crown Jewel Recruitment will find the right person for you. Contact him today at 780-984-8800 or email mark@crownjewelrecruitment.com. Jen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
The Cool Jobs Podcast is brought to you by Crown Jewel Recruitment. Have a cool job or know someone that does? Let us know. Email Jonny at cooljobspodcast.com.
You got me feeling